Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a story of how I got into Christianity and pretty much my past, to be honest with you, because a lot of you guys kind of know where I'm my background, but really don't know the extent of it. And I personally, as I was thinking about making this video, I thought to myself, maybe I should not say certain things because it may not sound realistic. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, because some people are not into that kind of stuff. Um, and so as I tell the story, I don't know whether or not I'm gonna mention some crazy shit. Not like pervert stuff, because thank God nothing like that ever happened. And the places where I was at was was a genuine place. It was really genuine. I got really lucky to have a good environment. But I'm gonna tell you guys a story how everything happened, right? I'm telling you, man. You guys, I'm telling you, man. It's kind of crazy, man. Okay, where do I start? Okay, so for my whole life, my mom always took us to church, right? But I really wasn't into church. But I did have a fear of going to hell. All right, I remember going to church and seeing the mural in front of where the preacher preaches, and then there's a mural, and I just remember seeing a dove, like a pigeon, a white pigeon. I don't know why white pigeon is like the representation of Jesus. I'm like whatever. Um, Anyways, I've been in Africa. It's like a fucking I don't know. Anyway, so I was watching. I remember just being captured by that dove and by spirituality. I was really fascinated by it, and I never followed through on it when I was younger, like when I was 8. But I did have a something. There was something in me that was drawing me to that. To be honest with you, it's kind of crazy. I never even thought about that. To be honest with you, that was like the first um, inner force. You know how Robert Greene says, everyone, you possess a kind of inner force that seeks to guide you towards your life's task, what you are meant to accomplish in the time that you have to live. In childhood, this force was clear to you. It directed you towards activities and subjects that fit your natural inclination, towards things that were deep and primal. In the intervening years, this force tends to fade in and out, right? And but for me, that force was when I was 8. I saw and sensed the spiritual calling me, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But years went by, and I remember at that time I didn't have a father figure, so I remember I admired the few men that were in my family, right? Because it was almost all women. It's kind of crazy. My whole life has been surrounded by women. I've tried to escape from being surrounded by women, and then for some odd reason, I'm I'm a YouTuber known for helping women reluctantly, not reluctantly, but you know what I'm saying. Like I sometimes being around women, you get a little tired. Even women would say that. Anyways, I went there and um, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, my cousin. Yeah, so I really admired him. I don't know, like I thought he was cool, And he lived near me in Dominican Republic, and I remember he would always reject me. He would never like hang out with me, but I wanted to hang out with someone that wasn't a girl, dude. But anyways, saw me as a little kid. I wasn't too important. I get it. So we went to Dominican Republic, to New York City. Long story short, during 9/11, my cousin came a few days before 9/11. I think he came like September 7th. And I remember there was something different about him. There was something different about him. I sensed a holy presence. I'm not even kidding with you. I'm not even kidding with you. I sensed something powerful emanating from him. I was 12 years old, and I felt that same feeling that I felt when I saw that thing. You know, pause, and and I don't know. I just wanted to find out what it was. And he started talking to me that now he's a Christian. He was Pentecostal, and he didn't give me the vibe that most Christians give me. He didn't give me the vibe of superficiality. He didn't give me the vibe of somebody who just does it for fun. Like it's an example. It's like an amateur painter versus a legit professional painter who, like, the art is different. This felt real, like it felt like a fog of spirituality. Anyway, so he came over. We sat down on the floor, and then he started praying. Like he was like, "Close your eyes," and then he was like, "God, surround us with your angels." Blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, I swear to God, I felt angels. Like I swear to God, how do I know what angels were? But I never felt something like that. Like it wasn't like there wasn't music, there wasn't incense. He didn't have a freaking voodoo freaking look. He didn't look like a preacher. No, his whole thing felt powerful, and I just felt God's angels around me. It was the craziest thing in the world. I felt it. You know what I'm saying? And then he started preaching, and I was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Man, I didn't say that because I didn't curse, but I was like, "What the hell is this?" He started telling me about God, this and that. And then he was like, he got up and he was like, "Hey, do you want to accept Christ as your savior?" I got up. I said, "Yeah." And then he put his hands on me, right? And I remember my other cousin Christian was behind me, right, which was his brother, and I didn't know he was behind me, right? He started praying, and I just felt something, people. I swear to God, I felt something. Like it was like an energy, dude. It was crazy shit, man. Boom, he started praying for me, and then towards the end, he just went like that. And I swear to God, people, you know how you watch people fall and it looks fake? That shit, no, that is real. People do fall. People like, and mind you, he didn't tell me to fall. He didn't tell me what to do, but literally, and I fell down. And I just felt like I was hovering in the clouds, and I wasn't even afraid to hit the ground. To be honest with you, just fell down. Right, so I fell down. And I got up and I was like, holy shit. And then we started talking about God for like the last few weeks. And then he left, right? And then when he left, we went to church with him a lot, right? And then when he left, I stopped going to church, right? My mom forced me, but we just stopped going after a while because I just wasn't interested. But I did not want to go to hell. So I still kept it in the back of my mind. And then a few years later, he went back to us, right? He moved back to New York City. And no, we were in Pennsylvania. So he went back to and lived with us for a few months, and that's when things started getting really crazy, right? He lived, and I asked him, "Yo, let's talk about God," like, because I knew there was something about him that when he talked about it, you just felt God's presence. It's just that simple. Like, I don't know how to explain it. You just felt it, and then we would pray together, and like I would feel God's presence. We would pray for like 2 hours every night, and God would speak through him. God, just for example, he lived with us for a few months and then he moved out, right? But for that whole 5 months, we were praying every day. And then one day, I was praying in church, and then one day, the crazy part, right? It's crazy. One day I was praying in church, and there was like my 7th month being a legit Christian, going by myself without having Gregory. I would go by myself, and we went to a church where it was really packed around a lot of people, really packed. So we were like sardines, right? And I remember praying, and that was the first time I heard the voice of God, people. And the way I could explain the voice of God is like this. Imagine, you know how you hear your voice in your mind. Okay. Imagine that voice, but 10 times more, and it feels like it's almost like a layer on top of your voice. It's like the on top of you. You could sense it and you could hear it. It's like, and it's a dude. I don't know why it's a dude. It'll be weird if God is like, "I'm gonna baptize you." That'd be weird. I'm like, the hell? Like, we gotta check up on this guy, man. Did I baptize you? And I'm like, what? Is that you, Jesus? Yeah. Imagine God needs to save. Oh, okay, that's enough, man. This is blasphemous. Anyway, so what was I gonna say? So yeah, I was there, and I was like, I told my cousin, I told my friend Ricardo, because we were in a church band. I was in a church band. I played the drums, and I told Ricardo. I didn't tell Ricardo that he was a big Mexican guy, like a big motherfucker. Like, he looked like El Chapo if he was like 6'2". Like, he was tall as shit, and I had my other friend, his cousin named Roman. We were like really tight in. All of a sudden, there was a preacher. His name was Jose Negron. He's a very famous preacher in Puerto Rico. All of a sudden, as I was praising God, all of a sudden, I started like moving in multiple, like just like my hands, like were just moving in multiple directions. Like and I couldn't control my body. You know when you twitch by mistake, right? Imagine a twitch, but the whole body, but completely coordinated, bunched in a big old fucking bear, like a freaking 400-pound gorilla, right? With my other friend, and I don't even touch him. And they say that when it's the Spirit of God moving through you, you don't touch anyone. But if it's actually just your emotions, you end up hitting people and pissing them off. No, I was moving, and it was like I personally I don't know how long it was, but I felt the spirit of God control my body, and then it stopped. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, I didn't say what the fuck, but I'm like, oh my God, because I heard the voice of God that day, before the service started. Today I baptize you, and that happened. And then the next week, I was praying by myself, and all of a sudden, I started like praying in tongues, like, and the way that people are like, how do you know you're faking it? Well, this is the way it works. It's kind of crazy, right? If you're faking, if you're the way that you know it's actually happening is that you try to speak in your normal language, but something else comes out. It's like a Freudian slip. You know when you say the wrong word, and by mistake, you thought well you were gonna say happy, but then you said dick, right? For example, right? Well, what happens is that when you're speaking in tongues, imagine that happening, but for a bunch of paragraphs and sentences. You try to speak this, and something completely different comes out. And no matter it's like no matter how much you try, you can't. It's almost like trying to walk straight when you're drunk, right? There's something in you that's causing you to not have full control, and that is the spirit of God, right? So then we started like praying together, and the prayer sessions became insane, right? And I would start praying for like 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day. I would make sure I would wake up at 4 in the morning, pray for 3 hours, and then in school, go back home, pray for 4 hours, pray for 3 hours, go to church, and then pray for 1 more hour. Like just complete obsession. And the more I did that, the more intense things got. And I remember I would just read the Bible for like on the weekends for like 6 hours a day, just super intense. And then one day I was talking to Gregory on the phone, and then God talked to him. He talked to him through me. No, he talked to him through me. And one of the things he said, this is the crazy part, and it does gives me goosebumps. And I don't like to tell this part because it's just, I don't know. I just don't like to tell people this part. But this is what happened, right? And then he said that you will go through, in Spanish, it was like, irás a las naciones y sanarás multitudes. And what he meant was that you will go throughout all of the nations and you will heal many, right? And I remember seeing a vision of a stadium full of people, and I was preaching on top of that. And by that time, I wasn't preaching at that time, but you know, you could kind of tell, like I was you know, I like to talk. You know what I'm saying? I'm somebody who I had that thing. I wasn't smart in a lot of things. I wasn't smart in school, but what I liked, I was good at, you know. And so you could kind of sense that it was leaning in that direction. But the funny thing is that what you guys don't know is that I used to stutter. Like when I was younger, I stuttered a lot, right? So it wasn't like it was obvious, to be honest with you. Anyway, so as I was praising, I was lifting my hand, I was on the phone. Then all of a sudden, he saw in a vision of Christ, not Christ, but an angel, putting oil in my hand, right? And then all of a sudden, people, mind you, man, I don't know. All of a sudden, my hands started shaking, right? My cousin didn't know that shit was happening, right? First of all, he didn't even know I had my hands up. That's the crazy part. I swear to God, he didn't know, because we were talking. We didn't have video call. I just had my hands up. And then he was like, I see the angel putting oil throughout your hand. All of a sudden, my hands started shaking. Like, it was crazy. I was like, what the, like, how did he know that I had my hands up? That's the part that I just didn't understand. Anyways. And then we stopped talking. And then, you know, anyway, so we stopped the prayer, and I just kept going for years, man. I started preaching 1 month after that, and it was, you know, I was very nervous the first time before I preached. Like I just didn't want to do it because I was nervous, but I still did it. It was like around 50 people, and it went pretty. I don't think I was that good, but maybe people thought otherwise. But I was really nervous, right? And I remember one night I was scared of the dark at that time. You know, I was still scared of the dark. And I saw a dark shadow, because at that time I was sleeping on the floor, right? And the reason why I slept on the floor was for spiritual reasons. They called it sleeping in ceniza, sleeping in. And when I saw that dark thing move up, I swear to God, I got the hell up, and I was like, with fear though, and I was like, "Que Dios reprenda el diablo." I was like, holy shit. Like, I got scared, bro. I got scared shitless. And I started praying even more after that. And mind you, yeah, when I said like I had to pause it, but yeah, I was sleeping on the floor for spiritual reasons. Like it's like a spiritual sacrifice. The more you sacrifice your body, the deeper you get into the meditation or into the spirituality, pretty much. And so you put yourself in uncomfortable positions to grow your spiritual life. You simplify your life to grow your spiritual life. And at that time, I was reading the Bible almost all day, almost all night, reading books about the Bible. In fact, I know a lot of people don't like Benny Hinn. I think he's a charlatan, but his books are really good. Like honestly, his books on the about spirituality, those books are really good, and I would highly recommend you guys check that out. Anyways, so I was just doing all of that, and when I would go to church, people were like didn't understand how I barely got into church, but I was really like I knew more about the Bible than most people there. And one of the reasons why was because I was just one of the few people who took it seriously. It's just as simple as that. I would fast 2 or 3 days in a row. My mom was going crazy. She was like, "What the fuck is going on with this kid? Like this kid is like, you're making me look like a bad mom because you don't eat and you're skinny as hell." I was skinny as hell, people, and that was because I was fasting so much, like a lot. And then I began preaching, right? And when I began preaching, I started getting like a not a big following at first, but I was starting. I used to give Bible classes, and it was like around 10 people at that time, and then it ballooned up to 20. And then in high school, like I had a lot of people who used to ask me for advice, or I used to give Bible classes as well, and it would go around to like 30, 40 people at one point. And it was because I enjoyed giving classes, and the classes were in person, right? So I would go, or I would travel sometimes to different houses where I would preach to 3 people, pray for them, and then go somewhere else. And I was like a spiritual hustler, not like in a bad way, because I wouldn't take money from people, to be honest with you. But I was doing that a lot. And one of the reasons why, it was because because again, I say this, and it's like if you've never been to church, I get it's gonna sound weird, so whatever. When different preachers used to come to our church, right? Because they used to call it revivals, and consistently they all told me the same thing. Maybe it was a memo, or maybe it's something that every preacher says. But what they told me was very specific. Was that you're gonna go across the world, preaching my word, and heal many. And they told me that my calling was to be an evangelist, right? And I'm gonna leave the other part out because again, it's just some people just won't understand. There's some parts in the story that I just cannot tell. It's just too. Even saying supernatural is already looking. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I'm thinking about what I should say. And it got to the point when I would do churches to preach. I would start praying for people. People would fall. I remember one time. Oh God, there's something called the spirit, the gifts of the Spirit, and the gifts of the Spirit that God told me He gave me at that time. Man, I remember the Spirit of wisdom. I think it's that, right? El Espíritu de Sabiduría, Spirit of wisdom, the gift of healing, the gift of prophecy, the discernment of spirit. I think in the gift of tongues. Those were the 5 ones. And I remember when we used to do all night vigils where we would pray for from 8 a.m. No, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And I would go to all of them. Like I was a dude who went to church at 6 in the morning and then went to school, right? And I didn't want people to look at me. I didn't care about people looking at me. But what I didn't notice was that people were noticing. People were legit noticing like this dude is obsessed. But it's not from our point of view. Yeah, I was obsessed. But from their point of view, it felt like God, and it did feel like my calling was to preach the word of God. It really felt had the following where it was like where I would tell people, look, man, like it's God, not me, motherfucker. Like I'm not. Please stop it with this. That's what they started calling me, sacerdote or Padre Alex. That's what they got. It comes because it comes from that, like a joke. You know what I'm saying? Like I say that as a joke, right? But they used to call me father. Because I was a preacher, so they all the boys in my school were like, "Hey, father," and just like some of you guys that are going straight to hell, some of the girls in school called me Daddy Alex, and that used to not make. I did not like that simply because it looked like a pimp. It felt like, when Wayne Brady was like, Wayne Brady, he was a pimp, and he was like, "Hey, daddy, I only did this much." She gave him money, and it wasn't enough, and she called him daddy, and then Wayne Brady was like, "Oh, that's it? That's it? Is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a bitch?" So that reminds me of that, and that's just not a good association. Just don't. Yeah. Anyways, let's keep going. Right. So yeah. So I had girls in school who knew. First of all, I was really nerdy because I was into spirituality. But also, some of those girls thought it was funny to try to tease me, right? And I always called it messengers of Satan. I call those girls the messengers of Satan because they were trying to get me to not be into spirituality by trying to seduce me. Which I think hindsight, I think they were just teasing me to see whether or not they could do that. I don't think they would follow through. I just thought it was like maybe a bet that they had. Anyway, so I'm trying to think. So I would do it a lot, preaching, going to church, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, my goal was to one day start a church, be a pastor, but also travel internationally and preach. Right, have a base in where I was, and do that. So my goal was to be a pastor, and because I felt like I really loved what I was doing, I was helping people. I was helping people get off the streets. Right, I was helping people live good lives, stop using drugs. And now, mind you, man, the girls in church were hot. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't know how the hell I resisted. My fear of Satan and of hell was so great that those girls were not gonna get me. Because they even had they had two twins in my church. Jesus freaking Christ. Anyways, let's just keep going. Anyways, so I did that for like a few years, and I was also playing the drums, and the prayers became more intense. The more I preached, the more I prayed, the deeper into fasting I got into. I started to see miracles. Like I started seeing people stop using drugs just by going to the church meetups, or even going to the Bible teachings. And I remember hearing a prophecy from another preacher. Again, I say this, and I just don't tell this to people because it just sounds, but whatever. That wherever I go, evil spirits will go away. Like God's presence was gonna drive away any evil spirit wherever I was gonna go. And people started just hanging around just to sense. Because the truth is, with some people, Christians know this. With some people, you could pray with one person and you don't feel nothing. Pray with a certain person and you just feel God's spirit, like heavy, and that's because of their relationship to God. So when I would pray, it was freaking crazy. Like people would get baptized in the spirit. It was honestly some of the most fun thing. It was honestly fun. Ministering is honestly fun. It's fun. It's beautiful. It's like you can sense things about people. Just beautiful things, man. And I was at that point, I was having a pretty positive impact. And it was weird because again, most of these people were adults following and hearing a teenager preach. And I think that's what kind of made them interested in it's a little weird. And there wasn't no sex scandals with me. I wasn't abusing my power. It was genuine because I just didn't want to go to help people. I didn't want to go to hell. And at that time, I would pray for a lot of people, and the compassion that I felt was the one thing that stood out to me. Not the anointing of God, not the hysteria, not the praises, not the crowd. What got me was what I felt that I loved the most was the true, genuine love and compassion that I have for people. When I stopped going to church, I remember I had a friend, her name Cece. She was like a twin. She told me I don't give a fuck about everyone. And she said, I don't give a fuck about anyone but my family. And I remember reacting. I was like, for real? You don't love everyone? She was like, what, nigga? Fuck. No, I don't. She was from the Bronx. She was like, nigga, what? No, man. I like you because, you know, you're cool, but I don't like everyone. And I was genuinely kind of blown away because I'm like, don't everyone feel really love for everyone? And, you know, don't you feel compassion for this person? And she was like, no. And I was like, it's a little weird. You're going to hell, girl. But that was me fresh out of church, fresh out of Christianity. That's that. Imagine then, people. At that time, I was willing to give you everything. Like, okay, I'm gonna tell you this one part, man. And if you made it this far, it means you're interested. So I'll tell you this. This is the nicest thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm gonna say this because I'm hoping not a lot of people watch this. So if you're watching this, this is between us. Okay? I can't say this without kind of choking a little bit, to be honest with you. Because it surprised me that I did that. Like, I thought about this like a month ago, and I was in shock that I did that. I remember when I got out of high school, I remember I said, because God said that, you know, I wanted to give my first paycheck to God. And I didn't have, you know, I didn't want to give it to church. I wanted to give it to a family. Anyway, so I used to go out with the big Mexican guy's sister, right? I didn't go out. I lost a battle between me and the one who plays the bass, Christopher. He won, but so I tried to go out with her. But anyways, they had a friend who lived next to them. Her name was Maria, and she had 5 kids, two 10-year-olds, no, two around 10, and two around 5, and one that was 1 year old. And the dad used to work for them, and that was their only income. And the dad got deported to Mexico, and they didn't have nothing. And I just started my job, and I remember wanting to give my first paycheck to someone, and I never told no one. I told one other person, and coincidentally, anyways. And I remember, because in church you get picked up with the van. I was in a church van, and so she was always in the front. So before everyone got in there, I got in. So it was me, her, and the driver. So the driver was busy, and I just did I give it to her? I think I did give it to her, and she saw it. And she was like, she looked at me, and I was like, just for God, don't tell no one. I told her not to tell no one ever again. I told her not to tell no one. I never told anyone. And to me, I'm proud of myself for that, because the fact that I didn't tell no one, the fact that I told her not to tell no one, I never took credit for that. Well, I'm saying it now. You know what I'm saying? Freaking 15 years later, I think that's enough time for me to tell someone. Jesus Christ, right? That was the whole plan for me to tell it on YouTube. And I was, I did it for God. I mean, to be honest with you, I just wanted to do that. And to me, what that tells me, because, when you think back in your life, you kind of forget the details. To me, that tells me how devoted I was. Even I forgot that I did that. It tells me that I genuinely did that with genuine, selflessness in that time. And that, to me, that said everything I needed to know about myself. Like, thinking back, that told me everything I needed to know about myself. Like, it was a nice thing that that version of myself did that. It was a really nice thing, right? Anyway, so during that time, around after when I was 16 or 17, I started preaching at 14. People started watching what I was doing. I was actually uploading on YouTube. I deleted that channel. Because I was planning to write a book when I was 17. I was writing a book about I don't know what topic it was, to be honest with you, but I was writing that book. And I used to watch preachers on YouTube. So my plan, I remember praying, and I sensed God telling me to do YouTube. I'm just post it on YouTube. So I just started posting on it. And I did that for a year before I stopped going to church, and then I just deleted the channel. But that was actually my first YouTube channel, to be honest with you. I even forgot the name of it. And my goal was to use that to launch my ministry, because where I was going to church, the pastor didn't want me to start a ministry. He said I was too young, and I get it, but I was a pretty freaking determined kid. And to me, thinking back at it, I was like, yo, Like, why would you say no to that? Why would you say I'm not ready? Like, I work harder than anyone in this church. You know, like I pray harder. I do it with more genuineness, and above all, the people who attend my services, they change for the better. You know, like I wasn't thinking that, but I was. So I was like, you know what? Let me just do this YouTube, and I just never followed through. But you know, I'm gonna end it there because it's pretty long, but I could tell the rest of the story tomorrow. But you know, to me, it's kind of like, you know, what's funny is that when I did DMT, I would hear a voice, and the voice would talk to me, and sometimes that voice used to control my voice, and I was like speaking in tongues. But the difference was that I understood what I was saying, and sometimes I would hear a voice, a deep, strong, thundering voice inside of my head. And I remember one time, I'm sorry if it's cutting off this thing. This thing is like just acting silly. But I'll say this. And that voice said that I am that voice you used to hear. And that voice sounded very familiar. I never connected it. And I don't know. Does that say God? I don't know. But that's what he said. And to me, it just had an incredible resemblance to that spiritual voice. And when I take DMT, I sometimes have a very similar experience, spiritual experience, where the voice would speak to me. And this is what the voice said to me a few times. He was like, we exist in another dimension, right? And we speak through people in two ways. One, when you're alone and you're in a quiet state of mind. And two, whenever you master a skill and you truly master it, they tell you secrets of the universe through moments of epiphanies, right? So they use your strong work and determination to translate to you things about reality. But the point is to work to be ready for those things, you know? And what they said, that people like Leonardo da Vinci did that. People, Michelangelo did that, where they were so intensely in their work that they gave space for them to communicate things about reality to them. And that's how Leonardo da Vinci got to where he... So God manifests himself through you isolating yourself, focusing on one task and concentrating, and giving yourself a diverse set of knowledge that's close to the things that you enjoy, so that then they could use your emotions to reveal things to you, you know? And that's how they do it. And the more revelations you get, the more your spirit becomes heavier. And that heaviness comes because of just intense focus and devotion to knowledge. I don't know. That's just how I noticed it. And for me now, I mean, it's kind of funny. I can't escape this. I can't escape the whole helping people out, and for some reason it's always women. People, I can't make it up. I make videos for men and women, and the women go more to it. I do meditation the meditation meetups, and the guys don't go. It's like, what am I, anti dude? Like, what's going on here? And you know, it's like, it is what it is, right? So now, so my goal now, I don't know, to be honest with you, I feel like my calling is to teach. And I feel like I just feel an urge to just give classes, but not online, in person, you know, like I used to. You could see the people, you actually help them out, and people make friends, and they pray together, and they go do their own thing. And it's kind of like you create, you put people in a place where they are around people that are similar minded, like a church, you know, like a church pretty much. But the key to that is to teach that you can't change yourself with just a laying of hands or one retreat. It has to be a desire from yourself, and you have